So hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for this third ACKOMAS webinar. Today we're diving into the second of the three approaches for entering data into EUDAMED, specifically focusing on UDI Dev EUDAMED module. We'll be discussing the method for uploading XML file into EUDAMED. So for those who missed the last two webinars, my name is Jean-Philippe Joubert. I'm the head of customer success at ACKOMAS. Over the past 10 years, I've been the director of IT studies at a medical device manufacturing group. And during that time, I led a global product master database program, which included projects for building an e-catalog for global purchasing organization, and for publishing to regulatory databases like GoodID and EUDAMED. I'm passionate about sharing and comparing my experience with yours. I give you an honest perspective, and I won't hide the fact that an XML upload solution wasn't chosen at my previous company. We opted for a machine-to-machine approach, in fact. ACKOMAS is a software company, as I mentioned here, and but it is not just any software company. ACKOMAS is dedicated to healthcare, specifically the medical device industry, and regulatory compliance. Its founders are recognized experts in the pharmaceutical and medical device fields. In addition, ACKOMAS is a partner of MedTech Europe, Just One Healthcare, and ESPE. So this webinar is titled Uploading XML File into EUDAMED. It logically follows the previous webinars where we discuss some features of a EUDAMED project in 2025, including data collection and EUDAMED data publication task. It's the third in a series of 8 webinars, which will be held in English normally every other Thursday at 3 p.m. And during the first half of 2025. Be careful with the date that I mentioned here, because we will have soon a webinar with just one. So consequently, we will change a little bit those dates. So you will be informed anyway. We've designed them, the webinars to be around 20 minutes each, to get straight to the point. This one could last up to 30 minutes. We will see that. This webinar assumes you have a basic understanding of EUDAMED. I will try not to speak too much about IT stuff. But if you don't understand, please let us know, and we will try to explain later on. Of course, you can ask your question in the conversation tab on Teams, or contact our ACKOMAS representative for later for more specific discussion about your case. These webinars come at a crucial time, since we are just 11 months away from the first EUDAMED deadline. Today's webinar will mainly focus on the following objectives. Recap why XML approach seems ideal for company. Provide an understanding of XML solution. Show why XML is not suitable within the EUDAMED framework. Question the viability of XML solution in other contexts. And finally, identify alternative solution to XML. I hope it's fine for everyone. We will come back. I gathered, for your information, a few ideas. The 8 most commonly heard over the past few months, both about EUDAMED and uploading XML5 into EUDAMED. I'm not judging the users, often non-IT folks who reported them. Also, there is no order or waiting. It's a random list but isn't meant to be exhaustive or absolute. Let's go through it. The first thing I have been able to hear is it's quick to implement. So at the first glance, people might think the other party is collecting the data, and it's probably right, even if we will see that. The second is it's cheaper. When people say that, I imagine they're thinking of using their own resources. Of course, they can also choose a cheap solution, external one, I mean, but in the very end, it might be costly. And don't forget that in healthcare, we shouldn't compromise on quality. The next one, we can save on Excel file as XML. This is for those who noted that XML doesn't mean XLS. We will come back to this in a moment. The next one is it's one-time job. Many did this with good ID, and the feedback from the first FDA audits suggests that data quality will need to be improved and reloaded. So I do not believe that for EUDAMED it will be the same. But we will come back again with that. Next is we will do like good ID. I just mentioned the good ID experience. Some did it. I mean, they use XML file in order to load their data into good ID. So theoretically, it's possible. We will see why I was mentioning that it's quite difficult with EUDAMED, but time after time. It can be handled by IT. Our IT can handle it. Why not? Although I doubt IT will be thrilled to take on this task. I still remember the testimonies of some IT directors who were close to despair on this matter. And the two next one, we can upload an XML file into EUDAMED. It's supported. This statement is true. We'll see it in the next part. And the final one, the M2M solution, machine-to-machine solution, is an XML solution. This statement is also true, yet the approach for manufacturer is radically different. But we will see that later on during a coming workshop. Okay. So I'm starting this webinar with a bit provocative statement. I often notice confusion between XML and XLS because they sound almost the same. However, an XML file is far from being an Excel file. An Excel file means extensible markup language is a text document that uses tags to structure and describe the data. Like you can see, I know for me it's very, very small, but you know, I take here a report from EUDAMED, extract a report from EUDAMED, and I download it into an XML file. And you can see an extract of the XML file with the tags I mentioned and so on. So these tags are customizable and allow for defining a hierarchy of elements, making it easier to organize and transfer information, because XML files are often used to exchange data between different applications or different systems. So that's the reason why they are used with EUDAMED, I mean. An XML file, as you can see here, can be read by any text editor like Word. I use Word in order to display that XML file. Unfortunately, and you agree with that, I guess, it requires a trained human eye or IT support in order to understand it. For those who we try to download an XLS file into XML, they will be. I will disappoint some of you right away. You cannot do that. You cannot save an Excel file as XML like you can save it with a PDF, as a PDF, I mean. So as you can see, XML, as its acronym suggests, is a computer language. And when we talk about language, we mean IT developments. So think about that. beside the XLS file for collecting your data, you will have to create XML file, and XML file, you will need your IT and IT support in order to do that. So the simplified diagram I am showing you now represents the functional architecture of an XML file upload solution. And uploading XML file is a semi-manual or a semi-automatic solution because everything is almost automated once you present the correct XML file to you to upload into EUDAMED. So keep in mind that it involves several roles: the data steward, the data entry operator, an IT expert in XML and language, and a technical EUDAMED expert. Also note that it requires multiple iteration. That's why I put, I display here multiple rows, sorry. So, but we will see that in the following section. The XML solution mainly relies on 3 steps: creating the XML file, which is here, uploading the XML file into EUDAMED, that's why I was mentioning who, and verifying that the XML upload was successful. This process must be followed for each XML file uploading in a EUDAMED. I mentioned this point because it's probably one of the most critical aspects of a solution. Excuse me. Yeah. So the first step, creating the XML file, is the first step in this process. It's important to note that collecting EUDAMED data is a prerequisite for this step. Okay? So also there is no way, even for the developers tab in Microsoft Excel, to save the file into an XML format expected by EUDAMED. So I mentioned you cannot save an XLS into XML like a PDF, but you cannot use also the developer tab of a Microsoft Excel. It doesn't work also. Okay, so this step is a job for IT professional, as I mentioned here also, and specifically an XML developer. This expertise is rarely available within an IT department, especially since it requires prior knowledge of EUDAMED technical specification to understand the expected XML model, both in terms of envelope and payload. Second point now about the EUDAMED environment. In IT best practices, it's often necessary to work in multiple environments. And beside the development environment, they're usually a test environment and a production environment. And sometimes a pre-production environment is added when modules are integrated later after the application is already in production. With EUDAMED, there is a test environment called Playground and a production environment, but no pre-production environment. My hypothesis is that the lack of pre-production environment is because all EUDAMED modules were initially supposed to be ready at the same time. And this point fell apart with the mid-2024 EU regulation. So regardless, the production environment and the playground environment are never identical. So it's difficult to know the specification to consider for the XML file format model. So keep in mind that XML file format expected in production environment and those expected in the playground environment are not the same. So imagine you had already two different formats potentially. And yet every developer, that's why I mentioned if your internal IT or anybody else want to develop something, normally he has to test his development in a test environment and then to push it into a production environment. But he has to adapt his development for testing environment and for production environment. So it's not so easy. And there is even more restrictive point. Unfortunately, unlike good ID, you remember the US regulatory database, there isn't just one XML format, but several XML formats with EUDAMED. You have different formats for instance, for creation and modification. You have different format if you handle the basic UDIDI and UDIDI versus UDIDI alone. And if you want to add a market or a packaging level and so on, it's again different XML formats. So imagine that you have the playground environment, the production environment, and in the middle, you have to think about what type of file format I have to use. So creating an XML file for EUDAMED is a complex task. And the IT department, we know, who have tried it, have given up. So I didn't have to use it. So that's why I was asking some people in order to know what they did, and they gave up. Okay. The second step is uploading the XML file into EUDAMED, assuming it has been correctly created or built with the support of an external specialized third party. Notice that in this later case, the third party is not responsible for the publication of your data. Okay, so let's go ahead and assume your data is flawless and you have unwavering faith in the XML file created by the third party provider. After all, what could go wrong? So that being said, we can't avoid the question of who will upload the XML file into EUDAMED. It could be an internal IT person, the regulatory affairs manager, or another internal resource. It cannot be the third party if the company has opted for this solution. For security reasons, you don't lend your codes to a third party to impersonate the company's responsible person. Okay, so now let's get to the uploading task itself. There is online help, but it's brief and not very useful. I don't know if I mentioned here. I know it's too small for me. Sorry again. This task is not very complicated anyway to execute. You need to select the EUDAMED service, and I will come back about services in a few seconds. And you have to upload the XML file and then start the process. It's easy, okay? So uploading an XML file into EUDAMED, as I presented here, is surprisingly simple. I previously mentioned the concept of selecting a EUDAMED service, okay? To save your time, I've displayed them on the slide here, you know, and I've added a red arrow here, next to the most commonly used one. And not that list is from the playground environment and may change with the next EUDAMED version. I'm reminding you in case anyone got distracted earlier. Choosing a right service is a constraint for the manufacturer because they need to match the correct XML file with the correct EUDAMED service. You may say you're still capable of managing simple association, right? However, I can hear some of you thinking that you need to split your data collection file according to the operation to be performed, knowing that this can change after the first iteration. So I give you an example immediately. Imagine you create a basic UDIDI and 3 UDIDIs, but one of them is incorrect. So the creation of the third UDIDI, which was previously erroneous, will follow a different XML file format when I will want to recreate it. It will not follow or use the initial format. So are you following me? So imagine that you have some errors, you want to correct the errors, then you will have to change your format. So it means to recreate a new Excel sheet, then to transform this Excel sheet potentially in XML using the right XML format and reprocess the stuff. So you can see how this process can become increasingly nerve-wracking. And now let's move to the final step and assume everything has gone well up to, so far. You created your XML file, uploaded it, and received a congratulation from EUDAMED for your upload grid. We will do that. Oops. So in the example presented, my upload seems successful. You can see here where it's green, congratulations, and so on, and so on, and so on. However, when I checked my file, I see the status failed. For IT professional, this is not surprising, but a non-expert, this success and failures message are ambiguous, especially since you have to remember to check the status because it's not automatic. So in case of failure, which is unfortunately inevitable in reality, you need to analyze the XML file. And this is, once again, a job for an IT professional. We are talking about an XML file, and the system stops at the first error forms. And you imagine that there can be multiple errors. This leads to a series of iterations until the file passes. And I remind you that I'm talking about language errors. Additionally, there can be data errors. So our initial assessment is that this XML file upload solution is a complex process with EUDAMED. Of course, it can work in extremely basic cases with the support of a third party who will charge you for this. I guess you will need a lot of luck. So, like manual entries in EUDAMED, remember the previous webinars, I advise against this XML file upload solution, but I advise against unconditionally, unlike direct entry. For direct entry, remember, I said that I accepted it for small companies with few medical devices. So let's revisit the initial misconception. I briefly comment on them based on what have just been presented. Remember, it's quick to implement. I would say no, it's not easy to implement unless you hire a third party to do part of the work without taking responsibility of any potential failures, and there will be failure. So then it is less expensive or cheaper. No, it consumes a lot of internal resources, and hiring a third party can end up being very costly for potential zero, and definitely temporary results. The third, we saved our Excel file on XML. I already mentioned that it's impossible in Excel. So let's go on. It's a one-time job. So no, it's not one-time job. Remember that EUDAMED is a process, just like Good ID, but unfortunately, national authority will double check that, and as well as the notified body during the audit, I guess. The next case is we do it like for the Good ID. No. Good ID, as it stands, uses a single file format, a single XML file format. And if you remember, Good ID, we were talking about few attributes, unlike EUDAMED. So I will not recommend that. IT can handle it. IT departments might response, but this assumes your IT department as XML and EUDAMED experts. Honestly, even if they do, it's better to employ them on topics with high value added high value topics, and not such like that when you have application available on the market, on the shelf, as we say. And the next one is we can upload an XML file to EUDAMED. It's planned. So I remember, yes, we've seen this together, but we've seen also that how it can become very complex process. And finally, the machine-to-machine solution is an XML solution. Yes, there are XML files in a machine-to-machine solution, since data is exchanged between applications. So, however, there are at least 2 points that change everything in a machine-to-machine solution. Responsibility for uploading into EUDAMED lies with the third party, not you. And your data is accessible in the third party's database, ACKOMAS in this case, and can be entered, uploaded, and modified without the constraints seen with EUDAMED. Beyond the immediate experience with EUDAMED, we need to ask if a semi-manual solution based on uploading XML files is viable for your company. Regulatory requirements are increasing in the healthcare sector for enhanced safety, and the general public is not inclined to accept less safety when it comes to their health, even if sometimes come at the expense of creativity and innovation. In any case, we need to adapt as these requirements are being strengthened globally and not just in Europe. Therefore, we can assume that if regulatory databases multiply worldwide and data must be up to date to market product in these markets, uploading XML file become less feasible due to the reliance on often external technical expertise, which needs to be reinvented and layered over all system each time. So, or you may have other solution, I mean the manual one, but it means that you will have to re-enter your data all the time. It's also thought that data quality and integrity are only meant to meet regulatory requirements. I strongly disagree with this belief, which is often held by the general management. It overlooks the fact that employees with a company often spend a lot of time searching for the right data for their own needs, I mean, or the needs of their service. This applies to specific functions, as well as when exchanging data between the company's application. You're probably familiar with the saying in IT, garbage in, garbage out. So in the medical device industry, product data is very important master data. And working on it for regulatory reasons also benefits the internal operation of a company. It's a rare opportunity to do it. So choosing an alternative solution to uploading XML file will also save you from certain disappointments during audit by notified body and health authority, as I mentioned. So let's see the alternative solution. Of course, there are alternative solutions to uploading XML file into EUDAMED. Note that but not registering your medical device is not an option. I guess you agree with that. The EUDAMED timeline reminds us that information must be entered into EUDAMED starting January 1st, 2026. So it's important not to wait until the last minute to start working on this. There are two alternative solutions. A manual solution involving direct data entry into EUDAMED, as we discussed in the last webinar. And this solution should be considered with caution under specific conditions. And the automating or machine-to-machine solution, which offer real ease for the company, and most importantly, guarantees reliability and viability. But we will see in the coming webinars that behind the term machine to machine, there is many things, and sometimes you can have behind the term machine to machine, M2M, not real machine to machine, but XML file upload, so manual stuff. We are close to the end because it's 30 minutes. So in conclusion, let's forget about the uploading XML file into EUDAMED solution and think about the best alternative for the company. If some still have doubts, let them experience it firsthand. We won't hold it against them if they come back to ACKOMAS later on. Our intention is to save them time, money, and possibly more. Thank you for being here today. I hope to see you at the next webinar, which will cover the machine-to-machine solution with EUDAMED. Again, the date will be postponed due to a coming webinar with GS1. So you will be informed about that change. Feel free to ask a question or share your comments or counter proposal, in the coming days. The ACKOMAS team are also available to show you this machine-to-machine solution before. I'm thinking of Cristina for DACH, Valerio for Italy and Spain, and Nicola for other countries. You can see the contact details by scanning the QR codes displayed on the screen here. And I also remind you our contact details. Email is contact@ackomas.com, or the phone call here, which is 33185416167, if I'm correct. Stefan, any question? Did you notice any question or not?
No, I don't have any question. It's always your webinar is clear.
I hope so. So thank you again, everyone, and see you soon with pleasure.
Some people have always a problem to see your presentation, and just precise. You have a link in the conversation to upload the previous webinar on the ACKOMAS website.
ACKOMAS.com. So I will record that one also into our site, ACKOMAS.com. So you will be able to review or see those slides on that site. Okay.
And you have the link, and you can share this link if some people want to see the previous webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan, for this reminder. And so bye-bye, everyone. See you soon.